phenomenon named drugs. The word drugs does not reflect any healthy or useful thoughts in our minds. It is because we have often heard this word with suffixes such as addiction, pleasure, sadness, demolition, and pure ignorance. Many may even feel embarrassed to talk about drugs or even name them. But you, my dear friend, have you ever thought that the scope of drugs may be broader than merely addiction and dementia? Did you know that the coffee containing caffeine you enjoy in the mornings and cocaine are the same class of drugs? Or do you know about the presence of drugs in many types of medicines prescribed by doctors? While drugs treat various diseases without any concerns, why should we be so afraid of this phenomenon? Let's go more scientifically into the depth of this topic and get a fair judgment about all drug types from the past. In the shortest definition, drugs are substances that change a person's mental or physical state. They can affect how your brain works, how you feel and behave, your perception, and your senses. In other words, drugs are those chemical compounds whose use causes a change in the brain's consciousness level. The human body is a complex network of organs, tissues, and cells that function under the command of the most complicated organ of our body called the brain. The human brain is unique in its structure and its abilities. If we look deeper into our skull, we find a network of cells called neurons that exchange electrochemical signals with one another. Billions of neurons fire electrical and chemical signals with each other every second, giving us our consciousness and the ability to read, write, visualize reality, and think. Although we still have very little information about how the brain works and functions, we know that different chemicals play essential roles in our brain's ability to function. When someone meets a person they love, dopamine and adrenaline hormones are usually secreted. In contrast, when someone is in a life-threatening situation, the body starts secreting chemicals like epinephrine, serotonin, and some adrenaline, which increases the heartbeats, causes pupil dilation, and many other physical reactions. Drugs, like meeting a loved one, facing a threatening situation, or any different external conditions and factors, play a role in the interaction of these chemicals. Drugs alter the way hormones and neurotransmitters are released in our brains, which can sometimes have pleasant and harmless effects, while most of the time they're proven to be fatal and illegal according to the laws of many countries. Tea, cigarettes, and coffee contain chemicals that make us attached to them and create pleasant, joyful, and energetic feelings in us while drinking or inhaling them. The release of dopamine in our brains after we smoke a cigarette or drink a cup of coffee triggers a part of our brain that is associated with reward. This makes us drink more coffee and smoke more cigarettes to gain that pleasure again and again. Generally, drugs can be classified into three main types based on their effects on our brain and body. Some drugs are legal, while others are illegal and can cause serious problems, including death. Depressants. As their name suggests, these drugs suppress feelings in the body, which is why they are combined with most antidepressants such as imipramine, amitriptyline, nortriptyline, and mirtazapine for relaxation and suppression of negative emotions like stress, anxiety, sleep disorders, and etc. But of course, depressants are not limited only to the medical drugs. Among the most famous samples of this drug category, we can name alcohol, morphine, heroin, and opium. Many of these drugs have addictive potential, and high doses can cause drowsiness, vomiting, nausea, unconsciousness, and even death. It should be noted that there are significant differences between the substances in this drug group, and some of them are usually prescribed only for medicinal purposes. They can be safe and effective when taken as prescribed by a doctor, but there is a risk of intolerance, dependence, and overuse all the time. Stimulants. Well, stimulants are drugs that speed up the messages sent between our brain and body. These compounds occur naturally in various plants and have been used by humans in various forms for centuries. The most important effects of using these drugs are increasing the rates of breathing, wakefulness, mental alertness, self-confidence, and high energy levels. High doses of stimulants can cause overstimulation, resulting in anxiety, panic, seizures, headaches, stomach cramps, aggression, and paranoia, while the effects of lower doses are satisfaction, increased feeling of happiness, increased heartbeats, blood pressure, alertness, talkativeness, and even decreased appetite. The most famous stimulants are caffeine, cocaine, nicotine, and amphetamines. Hallucinogens. Hallucinogens change your sense of reality. Using these drugs makes sense of illusion prominent into you, altering your senses such as seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, or feeling. For example, you may see and hear things that are not really there or have unusual thoughts or feelings. Some hallucinogens are extracted from plants or fungi, and some even synthetic and human-made. Marijuana or cannabis, LSD, hashish, crystal, and lead can be counted among the most famous hallucinogenic drug categories. Some hallucinogens are being studied as treatments for depression. The drug esketamine, for example, has recently been approved for severe depression in patients who do not respond to other treatments. So in conclusion, it should be said that drugs exist as a large group with different types, properties, shapes, and flavors. They are used in various forms and types in medical drugs, drinks, edibles, and sometimes directly as intoxicants or drugs. It should be noted that all types of these drugs cannot be considered addictive. With reasonable use, apart from being harmless, specifically as prescribed by the doctors, they could help with relaxation, pain relief, and sometimes treatment of various types of depression for certain periods. If you hadn't thought about these things before, we hope that after watching this video, your general judgment about the word drugs and all its supplements will change and you will look more scientifically into the topic.